I want to welcome you back to the D-Lo Show. I am your host, Ryan D-Lo Delosier, and I got another episode for us today from Yakima. So sometimes the most terrifying stories aren't about strangers in the dark. They're about the people we're supposed to trust the most. So today we're looking at a case from February of 2024 that marked a dark milestone for Yakima. It was the city's first homicide of that year. So in February of 2024, 72-year-old Marie Guzman was killed in her Yakima home. And her son, Julio Cesar Guzman, then 31 years old, was arrested and charged with aggravated first-degree murder after confessing to the crime. Now, what was the crime? So, kind of going back to this, some of the details that went along with it. So, on February 23rd of 2024, Yakima police conducted a welfare check at Anna Guzman's home on the 900 block of South Natchez Avenue after a co-worker reported she had not shown up to work. So that's telling right there as well. Not to say that you can't work until you're 72, but Marie Guzman was still working, and a co-worker happened to report her missing. So it's just nice to have those people looking out for you. I just wanted to add a little side note there as well too. That it's nice to have people who look out for each other, and I'd like to have people who would be able to call the police if I wasn't showing up to stuff as well too. So one of the great things about having co-workers and going to work is that you have people to check up on you. So I just want to add that as well. So the police came by on February 23rd of 2024 just to conduct a welfare check to make sure she's okay. And then later, what happened, an autopsy revealed that she died from multiple sharp force injuries to the chest. Investigation findings also indicated she had been strangled and her head had been bashed against a tile floor. Very, very gruesome. So authorities believe the murder occurred at around 5:20 a.m. on February 22nd, coinciding with when her home security alarm was also disabled. So during that time right there, like one of the great things about security alarms and just the modern technology is that we really know when things aren't working. We know, and as I mentioned in a previous episode, they knew when the the perpetrator, Brian Koberger, in the Idaho 4 University of Idaho killings of the 4 college students, they knew when he turned his phone off from just the digital footprint that we leave behind. So even a security system can leave a digital footprint. So then when officers first arrived for the welfare check, they also saw Julio Guzman, and he was in a vehicle outside the home. And then he fled at that time. So he led police on multiple high-speed chases, reaching 70 miles an hour, before being stopped by spike strips and a pit maneuver, say. And then as they arrested him while in custody for unrelated charges, Julio requested to speak with detectives, and he confessed to the killing. He also directed police to the knife that he used, which was still in his vehicle. So then at that moment, he was charged with aggravated first-degree murder, which included, because it was at the aggravating circumstances, like a lot of times there's first-degree murder, but the aggravating circumstance was that there was domestic violence involved. So, and then also along with second-degree burglary, he was charged with eluding and resisting arrest. And he was held in Yakima County Jail on $1.5 million. Along with this case, the murder followed years of reported abuse. Anna Guzman had been a victim of domestic violence by her son multiple times in 2017. And in 2021, Julio was jailed for violating a felony protection order involving his mother. Most recently, she had requested another temporary protection order shortly before her death. But the request was denied by the court. Wow, that's pretty awful right there as well too, that the request was denied going along with that. So we might have to dig a little bit deeper into that, but just to kind of go through this again and kind of hit maybe a few other things right here as well. So again, like I mentioned before, they're the people we're supposed to trust the most. Like your son. I hope my mom trusts me to be able to help her with stuff. My mom is a similar age to this as well, too. It's kind of where it hits home a little bit. And I know that my mom has never had to have a protection order against me. Like people, your sons, as your mothers get older, like into their 70s, and they're still working at 72 years old. I mean, it's just kind of telling that some of these things right here, like you'd want to be thinking about the next phase of life. I am, like I mentioned, though, too, about my mom does still work as well, and I'm grateful that she does, but she doesn't have to. She just likes to. It's part of her life. She likes to go and do that job, and I think she feels like she's serving a purpose by doing the job that she does. So, but the victim, in this particular case, once again, was Anna Marie Guzman. And to understand how her life was stolen, let's take a look at the 24 hours of chaos that preceded this, that headed into it. So, again, kind of recapping, it's Thursday, February 22nd, just after midnight. That's late. And then a resident at the Senator Apartments on North 1st Street is startled when the door is kicked in, and a man, later identified as Julio Cesar Guzman, is standing there with a knife. He isn't there to rob him in the traditional sense. He's screaming, demanding rent, despite having no connection to the building. And then Julio just disappears into the night. But the police are already on high alert. Little did they know this was just the beginning of a violent spree. So by Friday morning, an ambulance crew was called to the home of the 900 block of North 10th Avenue, where they found Anna Marie Guzman. The scene was gruesome. Investigators would later describe evidence of a brutal struggle, including strangulation, blunt force trauma against the tile floor, and then ultimately a fatal stabbing. The prime suspect was her own son, as I mentioned earlier, Julio. The manhunt did not last long, but it was explosive. Police spotted Julio in a Honda Accord, and then what followed after the police seen him sitting there in his Honda Accord was a high-stakes chase through the streets of Yakima. Julio drove into oncoming traffic, desperate to escape. Officers had to deploy spike strips and eventually use what is known as the pit maneuver. If you've seen this before, you can see it on videos and stuff as well too. It's where the police officer just kind of nudges the back bumper of the car while it's moving along, takes the back tires off the ground, and then the car eventually loses control. It's usually it's an acronym, which I am going to look up what that means. So, but I know that what's nice is it actually ends that right there. So I need to look this up. So I just put what does pit mean, and it's got like a hole in the ground. But I'll just pit. Let's see what does pit maneuver mean, and that it's a precision immobilization technique. Is a law enforcement tactic used to stop a fleeing vehicle by intentionally hitting its rear side, causing it to spin out and stop. Synonyms include tactical vehicle intervention, which is a TVI, or provision intervention technique. It is primarily used to end high-speed pursuits. So, there you go, the pit maneuver. It's been around for a long time. There's a lot of police officers that are very good at it. It ends a pursuit very quickly, and it stops another car, and it kind of it saves lives, I believe, as well, too. So, makes it so that the person who is eluding is safe. Not that we care as much about them. All lives are valuable. Even those of you who are trying to run from the police after killing your mother, your life is you still have value in your life. So. The high-stakes chase through Yakima, he drove into oncoming traffic, and then they deployed spike strips, and eventually they used the pit maneuver to force his car off the road. But this time, even after the pit maneuver, Julio wasn't done. He bolted on foot after this, resisting even as officers caught up to him. It took a police dog and multiple officers to finally bring him into custody. And then we get later on, so he's in custody, we've got him arrested. So in the courtroom, the atmosphere was heavy. Deputy Prosecutor Matthew Handy didn't mince words, calling Julio the epitome of a danger to the community. Judge Sonia Rodriguez True agreed. She was setting a massive, like I mentioned earlier, $1.5 million bail. As Julio Cesar Guzman awaits his day in court for second-degree murder and a laundry list of other charges, a family is left picking up the pieces of a senseless tragedy. And so it's a case that forces us to ask, how does a son turn into a shadow that haunts his own home? Yeah, that is a troubling situation right there. Like, how do you end up doing that? Going from a son who's going to go kill the person who basically is the reason why you are here in this world. So yeah, I don't understand that, but we'll see when he's supposed to face trial. So I'm not sure when he's supposed to. I'm going to take a look right here. So when is the trial expected? And we'll see if we get any other information here as well to go along with this. So checking it out. Specific trial date for Julio Cesar Guzman has not been publicly announced. High-profile murder cases in Yakima County, particularly those involving aggravated first-degree murder, often take over a year to reach trial due to the complexity of legal proceedings and the potential for life sentences without parole. So as of March 2026, as I'm recording this right now, the status of the case includes a custody status where Guzman remains in Yakima County Jail on a $1.5 million bail. There are the court proceedings following his initial appearance in February of 2024. The case has moved through several preliminary hearings in the Yakima County Superior Court, but there's always these legal delays. Obviously, our perpetrator right here must have waived his right to a speedy trial. So the complexities, such as mental health evaluations or the gathering of forensic evidence often result in trial continuances. In similar Yakima cases from early 2024, trials have been scheduled or completed throughout late 2025 and into 2026. And we are into 2026 right now, so we're still, I guess we're a little past that timeline. So, as we are carrying on with some of these as well too, to kind of see, where we're at. I take a look at the initial appearance in 2024. So Julio Cesar Guzman, he was represented. His defense attorney is Melissa Derry, and while a final trial date has not been publicly updated as of March of 2026, the following filings and events have shaped this case. So the initial representation: attorney Melissa Derry represented Guzman during his February 2024 appearance, where she argued for a reduction in his $1.5 million bail, but it's still there, so there's no, the bail has not gone down. And then Judge Sonia Rodriguez-True presided over early proceedings in Yakima County Superior Court, setting the initial bail amounts for the murder and related burglary, yield, and eluding charges. And then the prosecution, the case is being handled by the Yakima County Prosecutor's Office, with Deputy Prosecuting Attorney Julia Handy arguing that Guzman is a high flight risk and a danger to the community. Yes, he was definitely a danger to the community when he was driving around town and had to have a pit maneuver to get him to stop, and then he still started running. So yes, I appreciate that the prosecutors and the judge are keeping him in jail for this time, at least throwing that $1.5 million bail out there, which makes it basically like no bail. So the trial timeline likely remains fluid due to other factors going along right here. So the aggravated charges, because the charge is aggravated first-degree murder, which carries a mandatory life sentence, life without parole, in Washington, the defense is entitled to extensive mitigation and investigations that go along with that. So Guzman is also facing charges for separate burglary at the Senator Apartments. Remember, we said that he went and kicked that door in, so that's another thing that he's facing charges for right now. He's got 2 counts of eluding and resisting arrest, which are also on top of that, which may be consolidated or handled sequentially. And then potential other issues that go along right here. So given the reported erratic behavior, such as demanding rent from neighbors while armed, and the nature of the confession, legal teams often request mental health evaluations through Western State Hospital, which can pause the trial clocks for several months. So those are, again, a few of the updates going along with this that are, as we take a look at this case, this one, I will be coming back to this one, but just to kind of get in a few more things right here, let's take a look at He does have a lengthy history of domestic violence, as I mentioned earlier. Julio had multiple restraining orders against his mother, and then it's crazy that the subsequent one, the last one, was denied. So I do wonder about that as well too, like why. And it could be, your mom, you're going to take care of your son if he asks for something, so it could just be like you put this order in place and nobody follows it anyways. So but if we go back to the Senator Apartments burglary, so just hours before the estimated time of his mother's murder, Guzman was involved in this violent incident, which was downtown. And the incident, again, at 12:30 a.m. So that's a rough time. You go in there and then you decide to kick the door in and ask for rent for somebody at 12:30 a.m. on February 22nd of 2024. And he kicked down the neighbor's door. And then he reportedly pulled out a knife and at a resident, and then demanded that they pay their rent. And so for this incident, he was charged with first-degree burglary because he had a knife and he was trying to steal some money, and he was armed with a deadly weapon, and then also third-degree malicious mischief and harassment to go along with that. So court records and police reports indicate a cycle of abuse towards Marie Guzman, his mother, and also the victim in this case. It was spanning several years. Yakima police noted that Anna Guzman had been a victim of domestic violence, with her son listed as the attacker multiple times dating back to 2017. And then in 2021, Julio Guzman was sentenced to 49 days in jail for violating a felony protection order that was meant to protect his mother. And then shortly before her death, Anna Guzman, again, I mentioned this before, she had applied for another temporary protection order, but was reportedly denied by the court. So if we run through all of these charges again that go along with our friend, not our friend, I just use that term very loosely. If we go along with all the charges that Guzman faced, the combined list of charges across multiple cases, I've got a timer to turn off right there. So across these multiple cases: aggravated first-degree murder, that's one of the charges, first-degree burglary, 2 counts of eluding law enforcement, harassment and malicious mischief, that is a tongue twister right there, and then obstruction and resisting arrest. So he's got more than 5 charges that he's facing. Some of them might be taken together, some of them might be taken separately, so we'll see how this goes as we go through that case right there. The pursuit that went along with this, so the initial contact that they had with him was on February 23rd of 2024. Police, while they were outside of the house of Guzman's mother, they spotted his Ford Taurus on South 1st Street. When they attempted a traffic stop, he fled, reaching speeds of up to 70 miles an hour. Officers initially broke off the chase for safety reasons, but used the flock camera system, which we hear about here in Yakima as well, too, to be able to track his vehicle toward Wapato. So we hear a lot of good and bad about that. We can get into that down the road, too. That may be something to check into. And then around 5:50 p.m., a second pursuit happened. The vehicle was spotted again near West Nob Hill Boulevard. Guzman led police on a second chase, and this time the speeds did reach 70 miles an hour. Officers successfully deployed spike strips to deflate a tire, but Guzman continued driving until the police used a pit maneuver. So the precision immobilization technique that I had mentioned earlier to stop the car on Highway 12. And then after he was stopped on Highway 12, he attempted to flee on foot after that as well too. And so we hadn't heard this part before as well too, but another detail right here: officers then use electric stun guns, or also known as tasers, and a police dog bit him on the leg to bring him into compliance. At the time of his arrest, police noted that the bloody shoe prints found at his mother's home matched the shoes that he was wearing at the time. Following this tragedy, the Yakima community held a moment of blessing ceremony on South Natchez Avenue, attended by Yakima Police Chief and local faith leaders to honor Anna Guzman's memory. So, those of you who are affected by similar situations, I will encourage you to check out these things. We have the YWCA, which is Yakima Yakima Domestic Violence Services. They provide emergency shelter, 24-hour crisis lines, and legal advocacy for victims. So something you can go to if you're experiencing this and you've got a place to go. Okay, there's an emergency shelter. We have Yakima Crime Stoppers if you know someone who's experiencing this. Platform to provide anonymous tips regarding local crimes. The phone number for them is 800-222-8477. And then if just kind of the cases right there. So thank you. I want to thank you for listening along with me here. I hope all is going well with you, and I hope that you have an awesome day.